Briana Marela is a singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist from Seattle, my hometown as well. Jag Jaguar released the lush, vocals-driven All Around Us this year, recorded in Iceland with Sigur Rós producer Alex Summers. The general territory, Vashti Bunyan, Vespertine. I hear a Marty Anderson of OK-like mantra quality to the lyrical approach. And to me, actually, these are functionally hymns, which I hope we can talk about, because they're often so focused about sort of how to live well and how to center oneself. Briana just got back from a European leg of her touring that she's been doing for, I think, all year. I caught her on her U.S. tour in New York, playing with Jenny Vall. She's great live. Briana Marela, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Grant.
If you go to your website, there's a link that says inspiration, and then it goes to your Tumblr. And this may seem like a superficial question, but it's really not, because the name of your Tumblr is What Matters. So what kinds of things do you choose to include on this Tumblr of things that matter?
I don't know. It's a little bit of a joke. Just, I mean, it's a joke, but it's also serious, just kind of like, oh yeah, just like random things that inspire me. But, everyone is kind of always sort of gathering little things that inspire them. And like, you want to surround yourself by inspiring things. Like, some people will post about it on, like a blog or a Tumblr, or like people will make like mood boards or something. And I don't know, I just kind of like the idea of having something that like I could put little pictures that I have of my own, or when I see things on the internet that I like, I can kind of just put them up there so I can kind of keep track of them.
Everybody likes to do that, but it's not so easy. I can be easily driven to distraction by just random upsetting things on the internet. Well, your song Forest Fire from 2012, Speak From Your Heart, has a line, "My inner voice says don't go back." Mm-hmm. Not a lot of singers talk about their inner voice, but the inner voice is that centeredness, the thing that is in touch with what you actually care about. Do you have any practices for staying in touch with that? Like just going for walks, meditating? I don't know. Are you a vegan?
I was vegan for a while and vegetarian for many, many years, and now I'm kind of mostly pescatarian. I'll eat some fish and mostly just, I sometimes like eggs and stuff, but I don't know. I do try and stay pretty centered. When I was growing up, I did like martial arts and Tai Chi, and I've like kind of don't do that anymore, but I do yoga now, and just kind of doing things that kind of help you feel like centered and grounded, and being able to kind of feel grounded, and like I guess like eating healthy, you do kind of maybe get more in touch with that like intuitive self that's like what's good for me, like how am I taking care of myself.
Could you tell me more about the ethos of Tai Chi? Because not all martial arts are the same. I did boxing for a while, and that's a very different kind of way that programs you, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, Tai Chi is basically all about, it's like, very non-violent. You're supposed to be like, if someone is like, you're guiding them. It's almost like you're kind of guiding away, like attack, or like you're kind of just like kind of creating flow within yourself. It's almost like making yourself more powerful to withstand, I guess anything bad. It's definitely not. Tai Chi is like hardly a martial art, just because it's so like gentle, but it's like gentle with power, if that makes sense.
Has it ever come up in your life? Have you like used it to fight someone?
No, not Tai Chi. I did another martial art called Tang Soo Do, which is like a Korean martial art, like all up through growing up, and that one is also like a very defensive martial art. It's like not something that you never want to have to use it. You never want to have to attack someone. It's kind of just to like, keep yourself aware and powerful enough to withstand attack, but like just making sure keeping yourself strong. I don't know, name Briana actually means strong, which is funny.
Oh. Nominative determinism. It's
Yeah.
a real thing.
Yeah.
People tend to be like their names.
It's true. I've always liked my name, I think, for that reason.
Now, the first track on All Around Us seems to be about preparing yourself for the possibility of becoming famous. I assume you knew you were signed to Jaguar when you made this record?
No.
Oh, really? Let me share some of the lyrics with people. You could try your best at it and never get noticed without putting in the hours. Show them that you really want it. If fame looks the other way, doesn't mean everything is lost. If you see another way, follow it wherever you are.
In a way that's not really, it's like kind of written, I guess. I mean, all my songs are for myself in a lot of ways, but that song was kind of written sort of to inspire other people to keep following their bliss, just because I think so many people kind of get distracted in that, like, I need to be like making music or art and like get noticed and like get famous and like make something happen of it, and it's kind of like at the point in time when I wrote the song, I like wasn't even thinking about that at all. Like, I was just thinking about like, playing music and just being like, wow, I'm so lucky that I can just play music and like I don't need anything from it. Like, you don't need anything from like your art, you don't need recognition. Like, I could just keep making music on my own for myself like forever and like never share it. But there is something special about sharing it too. And just like, I don't know, that song is just supposed to kind of be about not paying attention to fame. It's like if fame, if you don't get famous, like, it doesn't matter, like, just keep doing it.
So that's an interesting question that I think a lot of artists face. So you would be okay literally never sharing your art with anyone, or just with like a handful of friends?
Yeah, maybe just like a handful of friends. I mean, I do love playing songs for people, and it would, I guess, eventually get lonely not being able to share yourself. Like, I do love being able to share myself with other people, but yeah, I feel like it isn't necessary. And even kind of as I've gotten like glimpses more into the music business, just like seeing how much it is business and how, I don't know, it scares me that sometimes it seems like less about the art or something.
I would describe your music as countercultural, in going against the general grain of certainly mainstream pop, but also a lot of sort of indie rock, in the way that it is about relationships and love and how to be present and straightforward with people, and singing about friendship and these things that are really important in people's lives. But then if you look at the sort of content of quote unquote relationship based songs, like, I don't know, whatever, like Gautier or something like that, there's so many songs that are basically just totally selfish narrators who are like upset that someone dumps them, and they're not really even asking like how to be a better person.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. What led you to this? Is this like a system of reminders for yourself?
I mean, in a sense, yeah, it's kind of like an emotional outlet. So I feel like if I'm confused and kind of don't understand how a relationship is going or working, or like feelings that feel confusing, it's like a good way for me to try and like make sense of them and understand them. And I don't know, I feel like people have called some of my lyrics childish, or even like the music childish, but I don't know, maybe I am a child. I don't know. I am coming about it from this, like, I don't know, maybe kind of more innocent perspective than others. Like, I don't know, I haven't really dated very many people, and I mean, I kind of not like a huge partier or anything, and
You have a song that's track 3 on the new record that's.
I force myself to go out tonight, get on my bike and go outside.
Yeah, it's very true. I feel like I do that a lot. Just sometimes I just don't want to be social, kind of like to be a loner, and then I'm just like, no, I have to go out. Like, I have to get out of my house. I have to go, like, talk to people and be out in the world, you know.
Well, it's shocking when you break it down how much of the music industry is ultimately selling alcohol. And just...
Yeah. Oh my God. I could go on about that forever.
Sure. What do you have to say about that?
I mean, it's kind of horrible. It's really sad. Like, especially like this, you know, tour I just did with Jenny Ball. It's like I had never really played a bunch of like bar venues across the country, and just realizing how like alcohol is such a big part of it. It's like it's such a big part of it that they'll even like let people be really loud talking at a bar in the same room as the venue where the music is happening, even if the music is quiet, just so they can keep selling alcohol. You know, it's like, what is it about then? It's like, is it about the alcohol or is it about the music? And I don't know, that kind of, it's very like suspicious to me. I'm not sure how much I like that.
Yeah, and it over the big picture, and it creates this set of incentives for music to be more, I don't know, more of like a stimulant, more of something that you can talk over without missing anything. All of that.
Yeah, I mean, and it can be. Music can be lots of things, and don't get me wrong, like, I like drinking as much as anyone else. Like, I like having fun and like being social with friends, but I guess maybe I kind of separate things a little bit more, and maybe, I don't know, maybe music like mine and Jenny's like isn't really meant to be heard in a bar.
I mean, thank God for headphones. Just the ability. That's how I listen to most music, walking around, focused on it.
Yeah, really.
This is ultimately, the Quick to Listen podcast is a music appreciation podcast, and I do not take it for granted that people know how to listen to music. I think it's a skill. Do you have any advice for people on that?
I guess maybe this is like silly, but I think a lot of people, I mean, I'll do this too. Like, I'll put music on while I'm doing other things, like kind of mundane things like washing the dishes or like cleaning my room, or like two prime examples. But I think I can't ever pay attention as much as when I just like am laying down in my bed, like closing my eyes, like listening with headphones. Like, that is just my favorite way of listening to music, and then I can just really appreciate what I'm listening to and like really get into it, you know. And I think that's when I like really fall in love with music the most, is when I can have that time and space to do that.
I'm curious. Like, I've talked with the theorist Marianne Tatum Lutz, and she wrote a book about Kid A by Radiohead, and she's written about gendered music, and this is it's a really fascinating subject to me. And another example, like Billy Corgan has said that he can't really imagine men covering his music. Do you think there's any sense in which music can be gendered?
Gosh, that's hard. I kind of don't think it should, and I think it is kind of sad that it is, and a lot of it is just, I mean, with lyrical vocal songs, it is just because of the voice. Like, I think if a man were singing all of my melody lines and like basically like doing cover, you know, songs of mine, but like exactly the way that I would record them, and I don't think people would think they were as feminine. I don't know. I kind of think it would change the way people think about it. I think just because my voice is kind of like sweet sounding, that maybe people really, I know my music is really considered feminine, but like I know boys that make very like sweet and sensitive music, but yet there's people will still kind of not, you know, refer to that music as like feminine. It's like still strong and masculine or something. Yeah,
the climax of Surrender with there's a lot of layered vocals, and if those were layered head voice male vocals, it would sound anthemic more and like more violence almost. more of like it would push you back more, I think.
Falling behind, believe in signs in your eyes. Something happened. Cannot decide what is lying. Cause we're blind. Tell me it's not wrong. It tears me apart to give you my heart.
There is something. I was talking with Kaitlyn Aurelia Smith, who's like this amazing musician. I don't know if you've heard of her,
No.
but she makes really cool music on a Buchla music easel, which is like a cool like analog sort of like modular synth. Like Buchla is like pretty famous, and we had a conversation, like we had played a show together, and like that's kind of how I like really got into her music. But like she and I were talking about how like when I was in school, like playing on like modular synths and stuff, that there's just you don't want to think about music being like gendered or something, or like the sounds that like male bodied or female bodied people are like making or like bringing out of it, like the synths. But it just, I did notice like in my class like that there just was a difference in the way that like the women in the class were like getting sounds and creating like pieces off of like this synth that like it's like the same exact synth that everyone else is using, but like just the sounds that you're able to gather from it.
Even for instrumental music, this isn't sampling vocals at this point?
No, this is all just like synthesis, and like all like the synthesis sounds that like people are getting from this, and like it's just, you can just hear a difference. And I don't know if you can call it masculine or feminine necessarily, but there just is a difference in the way that like women or like female body people like myself are taking out these sounds from this like synthesizer than like the males in the class. And obviously this is like a class of like cis men and cis women for the most part, I think maybe like one queer woman, but like it's just felt, you could just hear the difference. I don't know, it's that's like a hard conversation to get into because there's like lots it goes way deeper than that, but hopefully people know what I'm saying, and I'm not
You're not trying to ruin your career in life by saying the wrong thing.
I mean, yeah, I'm trying to keep it PC.
I hear I mean, I don't want to focus on this. I mean, I've like basically offended my girlfriend by not having enough female guests on this show, but I just told her I wouldn't force it. I just know more guys, and I don't know. It's I listen. I'm guilty, I listen to a disproportionate number of probably male musicians. But I don't know. I hear, so I'm not trying to like make you be this like some sort of stand-in. But it has been an interesting thing to me. There are some lyrics like it's better when you're here keeping me safe, or like lyrics about forgiveness that I don't know that I hear less from men.
No, I think it's true. It's like, yeah, maybe the things I'm saying, just are so much like from a female perspective, and I think it's really cool then when men can appreciate those lyrics for what they are too, because I think maybe not all men can, and maybe some people who are like really into like music made by guys, like maybe they hear my like lyrics or songs and just think like, I can't relate to this, like what is this, like
Well, I hope that one of the principal purposes of even exposing oneself to art is to expand one's experience of things. Your mind can't be smaller than the breadth of your travels across the globe. It just kind of opens the perspective, and it's like that with art. It's a kind of psychological traveling, I think. Okay, there's a couple anecdotes that you've mentioned in interviews that I have follow-up questions for.
Okay.
You played at a gallery in Providence, Rhode Island, and you talked about seeing photographs from Scott Alario on the wall.
Hmm.
And you said, quote, "They were really beautiful and of his daughter, and they were really meaningful. They really spoke to me."
Yeah.
Thinking back to these photos, and I haven't looked at them, actually, can you tell me more about the sense in which they were, quote, meaningful?
They felt really meaningful because I could see that they were by like a male photographer, and because I like hadn't even met him yet, like I'd gotten to the gallery, and we kind of my sister and I ended up setting up our stuff by his photos because we kind of like looked around the room, and I was kind of like, let's be over in this corner. And just because these pictures were like, it was like one of them I remember kind of more vividly than the other ones was like, it felt like it was like mostly like black, like kind of like black space, like it was like taken like maybe in the dark, and it was like I think black and white, and it was kind of like there was like light like hitting this like small figure that's like his daughter, and it just felt very like, when it's like you've found something kind of amongst like something special. It's like a gem, you're like, oh, like life is such like a vast void of things, and then when you like find something that like gives your life meaning, and I feel like children are that for a lot of people, and I thought it just seemed really sweet and touching that like obviously this father was like focusing on these pictures of his daughter, who he obviously like really loves.
Like I was saying before, it's really weird and too bad that in our alcohol sales oriented pop culture that there's not a lot of art about family, which is like a very basic part of the human condition.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I called her my girlfriend. She was a girlfriend at the time, but we're engaged now, and talking about that, and
Oh, congratulations.
and it's significant. I don't know. It's great. You also have told a little about the circumstances under which the title track All Around Us were written. You said it's about or to your ex-boyfriend, quote, "He'd get really dark about things. He would be like, what's the purpose of living if we're all going to die?" Quote, "In the song, it's kind of like I was trying to say there's meaning in everything we do. One of the most important things we can do is love each other."
Yeah. That's what I said.
Well, I guess the question is, because regarding this question of it seems like people can basically flip regarding whether they think nothing has meaning or everything has meaning. And in a way, I feel like I'm like I was raised Catholic. I feel like maybe you were too, based on your music, but I'm not sure.
No, I was raised atheist.
Oh, okay. So I feel like maybe I was conditioned towards a sense of inherent meaning in things, but I in a way I feel like we can kind of choose, like either everything is meaningful or nothing is meaningful, and I love that this song addresses that head on, but at the same time, like in your experience, can you make someone feel a sense of greater meaning?
I feel like I try, but I don't know if it always helps. Like even in relation to this ex-boyfriend, it's like he gets kind of like stuck in like his creative stuff. Like he's a really amazingly talented musician and person, but he doesn't really put any effort into his art or his music. And I always was just like, why? Like why don't you try and like make something and share it with people? And he's kind of, I guess, like nihilistic or something, just kind of like, what's the point? Like he's like, what's the point of like making this thing? Like what is it actually like doing? Like what does it mean? Like why should I do this? Like, and it's kind of like that just like hit me so hard of just like, wow, like this person who is so capable of making like something so beautiful to share with other people just doesn't think there's purpose in making it and sharing it.
Yeah, yeah. Kind of the purpose of this podcast and any maybe subsequent book I would write would be just trying to directly address this nihilism. Well, for one thing, there's something they talked about in Eastern Europe behind the Iron Curtain, which is that they call in countries that were not free in very basic ways, people would live as if they were free. Which means just the way maybe they couldn't speak against the government in certain public forums, but they would just let themselves do it amongst their family and things like that, to kind of psychologically trick themselves into being free. And it certainly, those people who took that approach rather than giving in certainly were better off when the government did eventually fall. I sort of feel like it's like that. It's sort of a fake it till you make it thing in a way.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I'm never always, I'm never like going about being like, what I'm making is like the shit, like it's so great, like, oh yeah, it's like, I feel like I'm always like making things and like feeling unsure about sharing them, or like recording a song and being like, I don't even know, like, is this good? Like, what is this? Like, I don't know, but it's like, you kind of just have to keep doing it. And like, it's like through that you grow, it's like, otherwise you're just not growing, you're not changing. Like, we have to like grow and change to like, I don't know, become like more our truer self or something. I don't know, maybe that's really cheesy.
If you run from fear, take caution. There's nowhere to hide. There is meaning in our every movement that keeps us alive. Stop and look, it's all around us. They live in my memory today. The heaven of my heart is their place.
What's the purpose of living if we're all going to die? I mean, that does, frankly, in my mind, connect to the way more and more people like don't see themselves having kids or families these days. And so there's this sense of being like cut off from the future, and any future humans are irrelevant. If you can see yourself as being part of a chain that goes back in through history of ancestors and other just spiritual cultural influences on you, and then will also continue beyond you through your descendants and just people you influence through interacting with them, it's like that sort of does the trick. That's kind of enough, I think, because in a way meaninglessness is something that's decontextualized. But if we can feel that we're contextualized in a society where we matter and exist beyond our own death, then I think that's enough. And so I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about like talking openly about like having kids in my life, I don't know how much more you really need. I think that simply alone goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm scared of death. Like, I've always been really scared of death, like since I was a kid, and I used to like have these like really bad panic attacks about it, and I luckily don't get those as much anymore. And I think a lot of it just has been through like trying to just be more present instead of thinking too much about the future, thinking too much about the past. It's just like being really present. And in being present, I am thinking only about right now. But then when I do think about the future, I think, what do I want to be remembered for? What do I want to pass on to other people in the future? And I think making art or music is a really important and beautiful way to be remembered, and like something to give to your children and your children's children.
How do you confront darkness in your music? Things like fear and anger and ugliness. Overall, it's I think pretty positive, centered music that's definitely willing itself towards greater health and positivity and all of that. I could give you some quotes that kind of from the song Forest Fire. Deep as these woods go, I've been through their center. They're not so dark and intense. Or there's a song, Forgiveness. My foolish temper won't get me this September. Yeah, how do you work that balance? Like if life is bad and pissing you off or whatever, how do you incorporate that?
I think especially through writing Speak From Your Heart, that album, I was in a really sad place because I just had broken up with my first real love that I had in my life, and I was feeling really sad and really negative and really angry for a while, and I felt like I wasn't myself. Like, I didn't want to be angry, I didn't want to be jealous, I didn't want to feel negativity and anger, I wanted to cut this person out of my life initially, and that felt really bad. And I think it was, just through a lot of writing that's how can I really heal myself? Do I want to be making music about how I'm angry and sad, or do I want to make music about how I can grow from this and move past the sadness and the anger and jealousy and be happy? It's you're creating your own manifesto. It's I'm trying to manifest good things for myself and happiness. And I think a really good way of doing that is, for me, it's just through writing songs that do make me feel positive and happy, even though my journals can be filled with anger and jealousy and even more raw negative emotion. It's I'll be able to take from that, how do I change those feelings into something else that makes me feel better.
Yeah, you just hit on a number of things that are classic wisdom from, I know, Eastern traditions, but also even from Western psychotherapy. When you said, this anger isn't me, people talk about whether one chooses to identify with which emotional states, because that's a bit of a choice.
Yeah, I think it is. It is more than people will own up to. I mean, even I know, things like depression are sometimes things that can't be helped, but I also think you can keep yourself in a state of depression by just wallowing in it, and I'm not a doctor or anything, but I do think there are ways when people are depressed, seriously depressed, to help themselves, throughout, without medication,
I'll put it this way. If I have a musician friend who makes a record that's very bitter and self-pitying and sort of solipsistic, and then I know that they're going to be playing that music for a year on tour, it's inevitable that those mental ruts or pathways are going to just be reinforced by the sheer act of singing those songs over and over again and being identified with those songs in the eyes of others. That definitely doesn't mean to avoid darkness in art, but it's something for any artist or consumer of art to be aware of. I sort of side with Plato when he's almost afraid of the ability that music has to brainwash people.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think maybe that is just a big reason why I maybe even fear writing too dark, because I know that I have a really dark part of me that is really sad and really angry and scary to me, and I don't want to bring that part of myself out. I would much rather be in a like happier, more positive state of being, because it's like, you know yourself, you know that part of yourself is in there, and you like get glimpses of it. So it's like, if I was making really sad, dark music, I feel like that part of me would come out more, and I guess maybe I'm just scared of that part of myself.
It's like a spell, I believe, and
Yeah.
I think from that neuroscience is on your side as well. This whole thing, when I say mental pathways, like myelin, like you experience certain emotional states as you listen to a certain song over and over again, and you basically, whatever you do, you're practicing to become an expert at.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's why I compared your songs to hymns, because of how I don't know how deliberately order-inducing and positive they are. But I don't know, anything else?
I mean, for the first time, I think it was last year, I went to a like shape note singing, like the
throat singing, that kind of thing.
no, shape note. It's like the, where people sing. Maybe that's not the right word for it. What's it called? I'm totally blanking on it. But it's like people sing with like solfege, like fa la so, like, and they sing like these beautiful old like hymns, like super old hymns, and like everybody just like will read out of these books and like sing together, and like they'll sing in the solfege and then they'll sing the lyrics. And it was such a like beautiful, uplifting thing that's like, even as someone who isn't religious at all, like it just made me realize why even church was a big thing to people in the past, and why it was so meaningful to people. It's because they could get together and sing together. Like, that is so amazing. And like, this was like people's main outlet for getting together and singing for like a really long time. And that just like it like made me think more about, oh, like this is why people choose like a religion, maybe, like, or maybe why people are choosing, like to gather in churches and like, be together, is because like they want to be able to sing together and like be uplifted, and like I thought that was really, really cool and meaningful to like be a part of and witness. And I don't know, it just like, made me think a lot about something I hadn't thought about before.
Forgiveness. You want it. Forgiveness. You want it. Forgiveness.